Welcome back. We have seen in the previous video the concept of developmentally appropriate practice and its guiding principles pertaining to ECCE educator. And in the current video, we are going to look into few strategies for developing developmentally appropriate practice in early learning settings. So, the learning outcome of this video is to identify the strategies to promote DAP in the early learning classrooms. Now, strategies to promote developmentally appropriate practice. To provide developmentally appropriate experiences, educators should understand the typical characteristics of preschool children, how they think and behave. Also, the second, recognize the different strengths and potential each child has. Third, work on developing these abilities to self-regulate. Now, we are going to look into the first strategy, that is understanding the typical characteristics of preschool age children, how it became a strategies for DAP. As developmentally appropriate practice are the teaching and learning experiences provide for the children based on the understanding of the children at different ages and stages of development. It is significant to understand typical characteristics of the child, how they think and behave. Recognizing these characteristics will provide educators to find every opportunity to reach out to the children and in specific ways for each child. The first one is young children tends to be concrete thinker. That is the first characteristics which we should be able to recognize. It means that the children cannot think in abstract ways. They need active participatory learning that uses all their senses. They need to touch, they need to feel, smell, see and hear, and participate in experiences that provide all this sensory stimulation for them to be able to understand and learn. Some of the developmentally appropriate practice strategies an educator can be used to teach children which coordinate with their concrete thinkings are: encourage children to use maximum of their senses to feel and experience new things and concepts by touching, seeing, listening, smelling. Children learn best when they can feel the various surfaces to understand what the term rough or smooth means, walk the distances to see the length of a rope is, or hold a real object to measure its circumference. Then next one is offer hands-on experience to help children explore the world directly. For example, use real life objects for children to explore using their all senses. Provide the real fruits and stimulate them by asking, what does the skin feel like? What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? Next is introduce sensory vocabularies. For example, during a session of fruits exploration, introduce the word rough, smooth, dark, heavy, sweet, sour, tangy, etc. Then read and display picture books about various types of fruits. The next one is encourage interactions and facilitate inquisitive minds to test theories and hypotheses. For example, how can we tell how heavy an apple is? How can we measure how long a mango leaf is? What words can you think of that describe papaya? Young children are usually egocentric. That is the second characteristic. Children tend to see the world strictly from their own perspective. Understanding this nature of children will help educators to work with them easier without losing patience and without labeling them as selfish. Educators can help children extend beyond their own perspectives to understand, appreciate and respond to their perspectives. The third characteristic is that young children generally have centered thinking. It means that the children have the tendency to pay attention to only one task at a time. It also means that the children can process one variable at a time. They may see an object by its color or by its shape, but usually not by both at the same time. However, it doesn't mean that they cannot learn to use the addition of second variable. For example, children will not be able to answer correctly if you ask what is the color and shape of the apple. Rather, they might be able to answer if you ask what is the color of apple. Then next another question of what is the shape of apple. So that is how it should be done. The golden rule is that one step at a time policy. Rather than introducing two variables at a time, color and shape, the educator should ask children to consider one variable first and extend the other in the latter step, so that children can focus. Assisting the child by giving simple direction one step at a time will help them understand. For an instance, rather than saying, let's make a fruit pattern using all these fruits, break down the instructions into smaller tasks such as, let's make a pattern of mango and apple. Mango, apple, mango, apple. What comes next? Yes, mango. Then what comes after that? Now let's say the pattern. Mango, apple, yes. Again, next is the apple. So that is how it has to be done. The fourth characteristics is that young children also tends to confuse appearances. The way they look, the way things look, and the reality, the way things actually are. For example, they might think their thumb is bigger than the star because the thumb can cover the star. It is also to understand that when a child makes such a statement, the educator must explain why things seem to be as such in a simple yet understandable manner, citing a few more examples, such as how other objects in the opposite corner looks much more smaller than their original size due to the distance will help them understand better. Now let us look into the second strategy, that is recognizing children's strength and potential. There are typical developmental milestones in a child's development, which is significant benchmark in every domain: physical, social, emotional, language, and cognitive. For example, the age at which a child is expected to run or jump. And these milestones are marked in the age range, and the attainment of these benchmarks varies significantly from one child to another. It is because every child is a unique individual, and this individualism is something which has to be encouraged. Therefore, early childhood educators should also be aware that children have different kinds of skills or intelligence. Some children have good psychosocial skills, others excels in physical and body control, and others in language and literacy or art. Promoting various forms of intelligence and maximizing the learning competencies through it in the classroom is given great importance in multiple intelligence approach of education, which supports individual differences. And this approach can be incorporated in developmentally appropriate practice by acknowledging children's strength. For one child, music may be his or her strength, while for another child, it may be language, mathematics, science, drama, or something else. Educators can recognize these skills through constant observation and engagement with every child. Facilitates children to develop and become aware of their strength. Provide an atmosphere that is open to children's expanding development. For example, by providing a space for children to be creative or act out imaginative and dramatic play situations, which can help them become more aware of their abilities and to experiment with. The last one is to identify children's strengths and use them to address their weaknesses. For example, if a child is good at expressing himself or herself through art, but does not easily grasp math or numerical concept, then using drawing and painting as a medium to demonstrate those concepts would be ideal. So now we will see that ways of educators can teach using children's strength and need. The first one is that observe children regularly. Notice what you see, not what you want to see. Listen closely to them. Notice the way children play, interact with peers, respond in groups, react to stories, and read aloud and other activities. Make a note where children choose to spend most of their time and comfortably. In which corner they are more comfortable? In the reading corner, or in the manipulative corner with blocks and puzzles, or at the easel, always painting or drawing, or are they always trying to talk with peers and adults alike? These activities and comfort zones can help educator to identify a child's strength and interest. Use children's strength to address their weaknesses. For example, if a child enjoys building block but struggles with math, Teach the math concept through that manipulative blocks. Provide varied choices. Young children are always open to the world of learning. Providing them alternatives often introduces new or reinforces the existing interests that are just developing. For example, ask the child, would you rather work with the blocks, paint at easel, play at sandpit, or read a book? Then pair learners with different strengths. Children can learn from each other. They usually teach what they know and understand among their peers or younger ones or even adults. Next one is ways educators can nurture children's strength. Be explicit in recognizing and positively reinforcing a child's strength. For example, I like your drawing. You did a very good job. Can you tell me about them? All this can encourage children. Acknowledge the strengths in the front of others and encourage to recognize and reinforce them too. For example, Rani is really good at puzzles. If you need really help, then ask her. Then emphasize at least one strength for every child. Educate yourself with the various forms of strength which can be identified among children so that as not to align a child of multiple strengths with only one strength. Discuss with parents and other caregivers at home for their insight and observation and ask about the child how they like to spend their time at home. Enquire the child what they are good at doing. They often have surprising self-awareness and knowledge. Encourage children to engage in something new that they have never done and something they think they are not good at. Recognize the efforts and process rather than the final products what the children is doing.